Hi, this is Yogeshwar 7000 again, and I'm back with another very interesting topic on Vedic astrology. And today we'll be talking about the planet Rahu, the great Rahu, the big demon Rahu, and what professions are related to the planet Rahu. So, of course, like I've been mentioning in my earlier videos also, that the way to determine the best profession, and as we all know that we are very concerned about our careers and professions, the best way to determine as to whether the career is going to be good or bad would be to figure out through the 6th house, the 7th house, the 10th house, the Amatya Karaka, the D10 or the Samsa divisional chart, how the Atma Karaka is placed, and where the Atma Karaka is placed in the Navamsha chart, where is the Amatya Karaka placed in the Navamsha chart, what nakshatra the Lord of the 10th house is placed, what nakshatra the Amatya Karaka is placed in the Navamsha, in the main Rashi chart, or in the Dasamsa chart. All these factors have to be taken into consideration, and then coming to a conclusion as to what profession would be the best profession for a person, or whether the profession is going to be good, or whether business is going to be good, or a job going to be good, or what kind of a profession a person will excel in, whether he'll be doing good in his native country, or whether he'll be doing better when he goes overseas and does business or a job there or settles down there. So all these factors have to be taken into consideration. But today we'll be talking about the planet Rahu, in case it is already determined that yes, Rahu has a great connection with your career houses, with their houses of profession, and we have already come to the conclusion that yes, Rahu is the planet which is going to make this person in his career, which will make this person excel in his career, which will be the determining planet as to what career he should be in and how his career is going to treat him. So we've already come to this conclusion, and then in this video we'll discuss that what are the related professions related to Rahu, in case it's already determined that yes, Rahu is his planet, which is the influencing planet for his profession. So Rahu is directly connected with psychology. And why psychology? Because Rahu is the head. It's all about the mind. So some of the great psychologists have very strong Rahu placements in their charts, and they have a good connection of the planet Rahu in their charts with their houses of profession. And of course other combinations, like I've been mentioning in my earlier videos also, that other combinations have to be taken into consideration, like whether that person has the ability to acquire higher knowledge or a higher education, or go to a higher place of study like a university to be able to become a psychologist. You cannot just go to everybody and as an astrologer recommend that, okay, well, Rahu is good in your birth chart and it's placed in a way that it's connected to your houses of profession, and it's connected to your houses of career, so go and become a psychologist. No, you have to see the other combinations as to whether he has the ability and the resources to be able to acquire that higher knowledge, which can help him, acquire that higher degree to become a psychologist, or somebody who can acquire that kind of a knowledge from a university. He has the resources or not. Obviously, you cannot go to a remote village in India and a person is somehow making his ends meet by doing agriculture, and his Rahu is very well placed and it's connected with your house, with his house of profession. So obviously you cannot tell him to go, the best profession for you is to become a psychologist. No. So as an astrologer, you have to be very careful as to what the other combinations are. But yes, Rahu is directly related to the mind because it's the head, and Rahu is about psychology. It's the head, and they can make excellent psychologists and even counselors, because they can use the power of the mind basically for positive or even negative if they want to. So so Rahu is very important as far as psychology is concerned. Also, Rahu has a good connection with different languages. So Rahu, if you have a good Rahu, it shows that you have the ability to acquire that knowledge of learning different languages. So then again, you have to see his whole chart, and then what professions you can suggest him could be to become a translator. People who are tourist guides who deal with people coming from other countries and kind of translate, and even professional translators. So that's one area which Rahu rules over. Different languages. People with good Rahu have the ability, a knack of acquiring those writing and speaking skills of other languages. Also, brokerages, any kind of a business which requires broking business, some kind of a deal making business, they're excellent. Rahu people are excellent deal makers, brokers, and it could be stockbrokers, and of course stockbroking comes under the purview of Mercury also, as I have discussed. But if with a strong Rahu, they can become excellent stockbrokers, and any kind of a broking business where they use the power of their mind and the power to convince people and kind of make deals, and they are smart enough, and their minds are sharp enough to kind of make their deals come together, which concludes into a business transaction. So that's one area where Rahu can excel in. Also, lotteries and business. So they could be distributors of lotteries. They could be dealing in lotteries, selling lotteries, because lottery and speculation, so as to say, that's a better word, and obviously lottery comes into that. So Rahu excels in that. That's an area which comes under the purview of Rahu. But then once again, I'm repeating, look at other combinations, whether he'll excel in a lottery business, or whether he could be a psychologist, or whether he could be a translator, or whether he could be a broker. So other combinations have to be taken into consideration in case Rahu is well placed and Rahu has a connection with his houses of career in his birth chart. Also, snake charmers, directly related to Rahu. And of course, snake charming has been banned in India now because of the concern for the protection of wildlife animals. But then snake charming and even dealing with snake poison. Sometimes snake poisons are used for medication purposes, as an antidote for a snake bite. So anybody who's associated with that kind of a business, because poison is directly related to the planet Rahu. So look at whether there's a combination here in his birth chart with other combinations like I've mentioned, and then whether he is a person who can deal with poisons, if not snake charming, but any kind of a poison, which, like I said, in today's day and age can be used for medicinal purposes as well. In general, animal rearing of animals also comes under the purview of Rahu. So people in villages and remote rural areas, that's the kind of combination you'll see in their birth charts. If their livelihood depends on rearing of animals and dealing with different kind of animals. So it could be cattle, it could be any kind of an animal, and of course it could be overlapping with other planets, which I've discussed in my previous videos. But yes, Rahu also has a great connection of rearing and dealing with animals in general. Very important combination here is distribution of all kinds of meats. Could be beef, could be chickens or goat meat, any kind of meat distribution, or people who are in the business of, they can in the business of meats, and they could be getting sheep, or getting meat out of those, selling them to supermarkets. So any kind of a any kind of a business, or any kind of a business which is related to any kinds of meats. Like I said, could be goats, could be beef, or any kind of thing. Of course, in India, beef is banned in most of the states, I think. So I'm not recommending that that you should go ahead and recommend Hindus to go and get into the business of beef and slaughter. But yes, slaughterhouses, so as to say, and any kinds of meats is directly related to the planet Rahu. So you'll see a good combination of Rahu related to their houses of profession who are into the business of slaughter or distribution of any kinds of meats. Not fish, of course. Fish comes at another planet, but meats in general. Also, scrap dealers. Scrap is all about Rahu. Scrap is one area which is ruled by Rahu, because Rahu is not a very clean, wherever Rahu is, it's not very clean and smooth area. It has to do with something like to do with old stuff and mismanaged and old scrappy stuff. So people dealing with scraps or old vehicles who are converted finally into scraps. You could see those big car yards where they have those old totaled cars. That area comes under the purview of Rahu. Not just cars, but any kind of old scrappy machinery, which has gone out of use now, so as to say, and has turned into scrap, any kind of scrap, and scrap dealing. But then again, if you want to see a good combination, and scrap dealing could come under the purview of ship breaking as well, because some of the ship out from the shipping industry, eventually when the ship runs out of life, then it's broken into scrap, and it's a huge business. I'm not saying scrap is something really scrappy or bad. It could be really huge. So you have to see that combination, scrap, and whether that person has the ability to make money as a businessman, whether the houses of business is prominent in that person's chart, and with the combination of Rahu, whether he has the ability and the resources to acquire those skills to make money through scrap. So they can become very successful scrap dealers. Like I said, they can go into huge multi-million, billions even, scrap dealers, like ship breaking, like I mentioned. So that's another area. Math. And of course, math is directly related to the planet Mercury as well. And Rahu and Mercury are good friends, as a matter of fact. And I can have another video on that, why they are friends and how they relate to each other very well. But yes, just like math is directly related to the planet Mercury, Rahu is too. So people with good Mercury can become good mathematicians, professors of math, and anything related to do with math. Computer science is also related to math. People who excel in computer science have to have a good background in math. So Rahu is related to math, along with other planets. I'm going to come to that later, but it may overlap with other planets like Mercury with math, but there are other planets as well other than Mercury. But for now, just assume Rahu is also related to math in a way. It overlaps into and even accounting to some extent, just like Mercury is related directly to accounting. So and then, like I said, we'll have another video on why Rahu and Mercury are so much related to each other. Also, manufacture of any kinds of alcoholic beverages like beers. Beer is directly Rahu because it's made out of barley, and barley is a direct relationship with the planet Rahu, especially. And then even whiskeys and all kinds of alcoholic beverages. So breweries, people who are working in breweries or owners of breweries. So you have to see whether he has the ability to just work in a brewery or a distillery which manufactures whiskeys and vodkas and beers, or whether he has the ability because of his strong skills, or not strong skills, but because of his strong houses which are related to business, and he can become an owner of a brewery. Like for example, something comes to my mind while I'm speaking with you, especially for people from India. There's a film star called Danny Danzongpa in India. He owns a brewery, and if you look at his chart, there's a good connection of the planet Rahu, and also his ability to start an enterprise on his own. So you'll see those kind of connections. But then, you cannot, if somebody's Rahu is good, obviously you cannot tell him that, okay, start a distillery and start making whiskeys and beers, if his other houses do not promise his ability to be successful in business. So you have to see. But yes, any people who are associated with breweries, distilleries, and winemaking, vodkas, anything alcohol, that is a connection with the planet Rahu. Also, they can be associated with the cemeteries, or even cremation grounds. That's a better word. Cremation grounds is also an area which is ruled by Rahu. So that is also, and in India there's a word, Sanskrit word for it, Chandala. Okay, Chandala are people who manage the cremation grounds, and they take care of Indians, especially from India, or Hindus rather, who burn their dead on the banks of the river. So that's an area which is ruled by Chandalas, who are in charge of those areas, those cremation grounds. And that's why they're called Chandalas, or people who are in charge of cremation ground. And that's why, if you try to think of it, you remember a combination of Guru Chandala Yoga. So Guru is Jupiter and Chandala is Rahu. So Rahu is once again a Chandala, and Chandalas, like I said, are people who are in charge of cremation grounds and who burn the dead and who take care of all that stuff. So that's an area. And of course, people with a good Rahu, you cannot go and recommend him to become a Chandala or a cremation ground caretaker. Obviously, you have to see other combinations as well. But yes, Rahu is a direct connection. In hospitals, the areas where the dead bodies are kept, that is also an area which is ruled by Rahu, where dead bodies are kept. That's an area ruled by Rahu. So people who are in charge of that area, where dead bodies are kept in hospitals, that is also an area ruled by Rahu. So and once again, coming back to languages, like I said, they have the ability to acquire skills in different languages, especially the Middle Eastern languages, which is Urdu or Arabic or Persian, and these are the areas which they will excel in. And why? Well, again, why is there a connection with especially these languages? Of course, they have a connection with other languages as well, but why especially Urdu and Persian and Arabic and Middle Eastern languages? We can have another topic, another discussion, another video on that in our forthcoming videos. But in general, that's the area which is ruled by. So people who could be, who can translate poetry from the Persian text to other languages, or vice versa, or Arabic text to other languages, or vice versa, they could. And then of course their ability and their aptitude to be doing translations and become translators, either in writing or speaking, that has to be taken into consideration. But yes, there's a direct connection with the other languages, especially these Middle Eastern languages. Like I said, the tantras and mantras, which is, well, tantra is nothing. If you translate tantra, it's not a bad word, it just means technique. And mantra, of course, we all know what mantra is. So tantras and mantras is an area which is also ruled by Rahu. So people who want to get into that profession, who want to become totally tantrics, I would like to say, like what you can relate it to the Wiccan people in the West, who use magical mantras and magical spells, so as to say, they call it spells in the West. So tantra and mantra, people strong Rahu will give you that indication that they have the ability to use the power of the mantras, power of the sound, power of the words for positive as well as negative uses. So they can become very successful tantrics. I'm not recommending that's a good area to be in, though. It's any person's individual choice, but that's an area where they can excel in. and they can become excellent astrologers as well, because Rahu is the head, it's the mind, it's very, very sharp. People with a strong Rahu can become excellent astrologers. I know I'm not going to name that person. I know a person who has been a very successful astrology, and he started a very successful astrological channel, and I know his Rahu is in his ascendant in it's exalted in Gemini, in the ascendant. And like I said, I'm not going to name that person, but he's come up very strongly recently, and he has been very, very passionate about astrology and astrologers as well. He's been going to hundreds and thousands, and he runs a bookstore as well on astrology. So his Rahu is exalted in his ascendant, so as to say. And then, because Rahu is the snakes have an ability to acquire knowledge of the occult, deep knowledge of the occult, especially occult astrology. Mostly it is related to Jupiter and Sun, and when it gets a little tantric, a little tricky, then Rahu comes in, and that's where it excels, and that's where it excels in. It's a different shade. It's a different shade if you compare it with Jupiter and Sun, because those are sattvic planets, and Rahu is completely tamasic. So his approach towards astrology is going to be a little tricky, a little tamasic as compared to Jupiter. But then they do acquire those skills of knowing the future, knowing the presence. Good tarot readers, good rune readers, good Wiccan people, good spell chanters, a use of spells and chants and mantras, and that's the Rahu people, what they excel in. Any kind of magic, white magic, black magic. I'm wondering, I should check the chart of David Copperfield, whether he has a strong Rahu in his chart and his connection with the houses of career. I'm pretty sure I'll get something out of it. I've not seen his chart. I've not analyzed his chart. But any kind of a magician, because it's all about illusion. Magic is illusion, and Rahu is the best illusion maker. He's the best Maya maker. So magicians, magic, white or black, doesn't matter. It comes under the purview of the planet Rahu. But then you have to see other combinations, whether he has a connection or not. So hopefully you did enjoy this video on the planet Rahu and its associated professions. And in the meanwhile, I will recommend subscribe to my channel and check out my website. There is a link below, and I will see you with an interesting topic on Vedic astrology very soon. Goodbye.